Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
So I'm on TikTok right before I start the show, and I'm just scrolling. I get a lot of Depeche Mode videos in my algorithm. I know, shocking, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that because the hype around In the End's release has been, well, surprisingly more so. And welcome to Depeche Mode, the podcast. I'm your host, Jon Justice. And it was the entire band, and I can't remember which VJ it was. Anyway, they were asking about the release of Songs of Faith and Devotion. It was around that time. Dave looked surprisingly well in the interview, and the VJ had asked him, so Dave, when I was talking to you before, it seemed as if you felt that this might be your best record or the best record from the band so far, which is kind of easy to say. Typically bands believe their most latest release is their best record. Well, Dave may have looked great, but he certainly wasn't all there, as he was just fumbling his words. He just couldn't get them out, even worse so than I am right now. To which Alan, who was sitting right next to him, interjects, and you can just visibly see how annoyed Dave was in that moment, and for the rest of the 90-second interview, he's just over there rolling his eyes, just, oh my gosh, whatever. Which, again, depending on, where the promotion was, I assume this was before the devotional tour. This would have been the beginning of the end for Alan. So, hey, welcome to this week's episode. I'm glad you're here. As we celebrate the release of Depeche Mode M, I got a text from a buddy of mine who was my Depeche Mode fellow devotee during the peak years, although hopped off of the fandom around the time of Violator. I'll never forget his comment was he felt that Violator had sounded too house. So he didn't really get into Songs of Faith and Devotion. The times that we spent together, he still lives in Southern California, so I don't see him very often. But I did, share with him music throughout the years, even though I sincerely doubt that he has purchased any album. Anyway, he texted me yesterday and said he was going to see Depeche Mode M on Thursday night, which I found quite surprising, and yet still warmed this Black Swarm heart of mine. So it is an exciting week with the release of this film. I'll be honest, I'm more excited for the release when it comes out in December, and I want to talk a little bit about that coming up on this week's episode, and we'll get to your listener feedback. But speaking of M, I figured I would share with you as the reviews for the film begin to roll in, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you as well, to hear your thoughts on the movie when you have the opportunity to see it. I'm actually recording this on the night of the first screenings this evening on Tuesday. Clash Music put together a review that I wanted to share with you on this week's episode, so let's go ahead and get to it. Depeche Mode M is a searingly powerful watch. Now, it goes into the director, 3 nights in Mexico City, the tour in support of Memento Mori, and then it says this: much more than a straight concert document. The director's film is a towering, complex work of exquisite artistic endeavor filled with experimental camera techniques more befitting of a gallery installation than cinema. The central premise is that Depeche Mode's music, especially given the untimely passing of core member Andy Fletcher that hangs heavily over Memento Mori, has deep parallels with Mexican culture's mystical association with death and mortality. Like previous films documenting how fans around the world engage with Depeche Mode's music, we hear from their devotees who describe how their music resonates with their own lives and deaths. But this is much more than, say, 101, the Mexico City edit. So nice of the author to show a bit of his Depeche Mode cred. Between the footage capturing Gahan, Gore, Gordino, and Eigner, they're at their absolute most vital. The director intersperses these performances with narratives and poems that seek to unlock the deep connections to death, Mexican culture, and beliefs. Shots of Gahan strutting on stage are mixed with deep spiritual segments set to footage of natural environments. Ruminative commentary on the redundant technology and repeated monochrome sequences of downcast angels and abandoned warehouses. What emerges is a poignant, often devastating appreciation of our quintessential impermanence and finite mortality. Gee, did the guy that wrote that other list from the other week write this as well? Holy cow. Soundtracked by Depeche Mode, and one which allows us to understand the central message of Memento Mori. Remember, we all must die. And its profound lyricism much more fully, and yet through the energy and intensity of the band's memorable performances of tracks like Wagging Tongue, Enjoy the Silence, and Never Let Me Down Again, we are also permitted to appreciate the life that we are living just a bit more. Limited screenings of Depeche Mode M coincide with the announcement of Memento Mori Mexico City, a 24-track live album recorded at the Mexico shows, including the additional 4 tracks from the studio sessions. Between the film and the uninterpreted live performance record, we can see and hear for ourselves how visceral that connection between Depeche Mode's dark-hued music and the Mexican psyche, while also capturing the band at their most powerful and alive. I am excited to get this full concert, to get the concert in full in a physical release, as not only recorded by the director Fernando Frias. We already know just how dynamic the footage is based off of the film itself. So to get the entirety of the concert without, while important for the film's purpose, but without the interstitials in between it, I am probably most excited about, apart from those remaining 3 unreleased tracks. I still carry a lot of disappointment relating to the last few live releases, and typically I go back to One Night in Paris or Devotional as sort of a default when watching Depeche Mode concerts. The way that Anton Corbijn shoved aside going HD for the recording of Live in Berlin, where you can see a good high-quality version of it if you watch streaming. On the DVDs themselves, the picture quality just isn't good. The Sounds of the Universe tour, while shot beautifully, I just don't like Dave's voice during those particular shows. He was incredibly nasally, and I thought the set list left something to be desired. And of course, Spirits in the Live Spirits in the Forest. While an enjoyable watch on its own as a film, much like what Depeche Mode M is doing, I found the concert in and of itself somewhat disappointing, simply because, as I've mentioned before on the show, with it being shot in Germany and the concert beginning in daylight, it ruins a lot of the experience for me. And so, for me, this is the concert film that I have been waiting for now going on some 10 years. I do enjoy the Playing the Angel tour video, although it in and of itself takes a lot of artistic liberties that strip away the power of which the band is able to show on stage and replaces it with a lot of camera trickery. While fun in and of itself still doesn't make, for me personally, a completely enjoyable experience of watching a Depeche Mode concert, which I fully expect that we'll be getting based off of what we've seen already in the film itself. And going back over the 24 tracks for the live album and the show in and of itself, it's a pretty stellar playlist. I won't go back through the list as I did last week, but sitting on what we know that was released, looking over the material that will come out within the box sets that are released on December 5th. I've already gone and ordered my copy. Looking back over the set list, and of course already on the streaming services, you have the complete entire track list available when you go and add in the end to your playlist. I'm actually going into my phone right now because I figured, you know what, I can go ahead and take a look at all of this. There were some people that have been complaining about the photo that they use of Dave and Martin. And I kind of get it. Dave's in a bit of an awkward pose. I did find the combination of the two of them in that particular shot rather compelling, even if Dave's pose in and of itself isn't one of his best. I can certainly understand why they chose that. But when you look at the track listing, and I won't go through the whole thing, but just some standouts. Getting Sister of Night in this, for me, Soul With Me from Memento Mori was a bonus. Having Wrong on this set list, John the Revelator, Waiting for the Night. I just really thought the band did a good job on this set list, pulling from such a vast catalog and shrinking it down to 24 tracks. I mean, we've done this several times on the show in the past, and, largely we all come up with different, unless we're talking about Matt, where he and I seem to have very similar set lists. I found this to be one of the better set lists that they put together for a long, long time. And I'm just excited for what this particular release represents. And I do believe that Dave and Martin aren't done. I mentioned this last week, and I just get the feeling that now that we've had a number of years since the release of the album, and typically this is right around the time when Dave and Martin would get together and decide what it is that they're going to do in the future, with so much positivity surrounding this release and the reaction that I've seen online, and maybe this is more of a factor of how social media has grown, even going back to the release of Spirit. But I can't recall, even when Memento Mori was released and Ghost Again dropped initially, seeing the response that I've seen for In the End in the number of posts that I've seen across the social networking platforms. I won't get into it here because I've obviously played the song in the bootleg version several times, but I've listened to the song I don't know how many dozens of times now already, and I absolutely adore that track. It's all subjective. There's a lot of commentary that I've seen from the fandom that believe that In the End was best as a B-side. I completely disagree. I think it's one of the strongest tracks coming from the Memento Mori sessions, and is once again wholly Depeche Mode, while also being new in what Depeche Mode was able to create with Memento Mori. As a matter of fact, to my friend that I mentioned that's going to see the film that used to be a Depeche Mode fan, his response, as a matter of fact, I will read to you the text that he sent me just the other night. He says, "It sounds like another classic track already. The boys still got it. Hard to believe how high the quality remains. Many acts at their age turn ick. Long live Demode." And he's right. The production work on In the End is absolutely fantastic. The layers within listening of that track, and I really like the absence of a guitar within the song itself. It's concise. And while it has some narrative repetition to other tracks, specifically In the End being included in Ghosts Again, the line In the End is also in Don't Say You Love Me. And I've seen a lot of people comparing the content of the song in and of itself to that of Ghosts Again. I would be curious, and I would add it to my list of questions that I would ask the band if I were given the chance to go and interview them, why they left that track off of the album. Because I can think of another 5 tracks that I would have easily replaced In the End with, or just included it within the within the track listing. There's a bit of simplicity within the chorus itself, but I love the way the song intertwines between Dave and Martin. And there's a moment in the track before Martin kicks in with the chorus where he steps on Dave those 2 times while he's singing the lyrics. When Dave says divine, and the way he says divine has this sort of wicked edge to it. It is a fantastic song. Here's the question that I have for you this week before we get into the listener feedback. If you were going to put In the End on the existing track list for Memento Mori, where would you place it? Don't replace any other songs. We can play that game later. I want to know where you would put the song on the Memento Mori album, where you would place it, between which songs. I'll tell you what mine is. I ended up putting it between Caroline's Monkey and Before We Drown. I had tried it in a couple of other different spots, and the flow of the album works really, really good when you put it in between those two particular tracks. It was a fun little experiment, to be honest with you, when I was messing around with it. And I had done this a while back because I had that bootleg copy. But if I pull up my playlist here, and I'm looking at it right now as we speak, yeah, it was a nice transition to go from Don't Say You Love Me to Soul With Me to Caroline's Monkey, where you're kind of ramping back up. And then you get into the mid-tempo of In the End before you kick into Before We Drown. The juxtaposition between the end, the acapella end of In the End, and then the drum beat intro of Before We Drown fits really, really nicely. So I'm curious where you would go and put it. And I don't think it was the lyrics. I mean, when you talk about lyrics that are trite, I mean, look at People Are Good, for crying out loud. I was thinking maybe that was the reason why. Perhaps the lyrics were a little bit too simplistic of just trying to justify why the band wouldn't include it. And then I thought, well, that's not really the case. I mean, People Are Good is pretty darn simplistic, if you ask me. Love that song, though. One last thing I'll say, marketing-wise, for this release, I thought it was a really smart move, the way that they're calling this Depeche Mode Memento Mori Mexico City. I don't know. I felt that from a marketing standpoint and titles, it's very straightforward, very upfront, conveys the message. This is Memento Mori. This is Mexico City. And to take it a step further, the way in which they're labeling the extra tracks from the Memento Mori sessions. I thought that was a nice note. It seems very basic and, again, straightforward and kind of obvious, but at the same time, I feel like that absolutely works in terms of the promotion of the album. And, again, I'm just excited to get my hands off of this release come December 5th and everything along with it. And what a fantastic price point. I mean, $42 after shipping for, two Blu-rays and 2 CDs. Just absolutely fantastic. All right, let's get into your listener feedback this week. First off, we hear from Glenn, 1965, who writes this. Agree with you completely, John, regarding the alchemy that gives Depeche their magic over solo works. DM is not DM without Dave and Martin. Fletch and Alan, of course, historically together. Thank you, Glenn. Easy Tiger UK writes, love the track In the End. It really is, in my view, a classic-sounding DM track. I can't wait to hear the other 3. Next, we hear from Chris, who had just walked out of the IMAX screening in London of M, and says this, to brief your listeners, me and my fiancée, Leanne, cried a few times. Seeing the band on IMAX so close is, well, special. Seeing Peter Gordino there live was also amazing. He shared a picture of himself and Peter. M will not disappoint DM veteran or newcomers. Stylistically, it reminded me of Touring the Angel. I can't say I really understood Fernando's segues, but that doesn't really matter. To see the band filmed with such modern technology is breathtaking. The pace of the movie reflects well on the music, and the nod to Fletch we all saw live is perfectly delivered. I hope you enjoyed the movie as much as I did. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Chris. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Steve Lank from Northumberland writes this. What a week to be a Depeche Mode fan. I was really excited yesterday when I woke up to download In the End. What a great track. Sounds even better in high quality. I have my tickets to see M at my nearest theater on Tuesday. Loving the Depeche Mode references in Tron Ares, but I haven't seen the movie yet. Really looking forward to the physical release of the album and those other tracks, along with the film. I really don't think it will harm the attendances at the cinemas for M coming out this week. Proper DM fans will definitely be there. Seeing DM at the cinema is like going to another concert. I definitely felt like that after watching Spirits in the Forest. As always, keep up the great work on the podcast. I really enjoy your track narration section. Your friend of the show, Steve Lank from Northumberland. Yeah, and my apologies for not having one this week. Just sticking with the commentary. All right, next up, Jim C. writes this. I have probably an unpopular opinion about the new Memento Mori Mexico City release. Let me definitively say that I'm a massive Depeche Mode fan, and I have been since the first time I heard the Music for the Masses album. I'm not overly excited, though, about Memento Mori Mexico City, movie or live album. In fact, I'm somewhat disappointed. Unfortunately, I was able to see the Memento Mori tour, though I've seen DM many times. They were unable to see the tour. I was looking forward to the new movie and the live album until I saw the track listing. To be clear, I'm very excited about the 4 new songs that are included, and In the End is a great song, as you've said. However, many of the other live songs of the album are somewhat disappointing to me. I'm disappointed that more Memento Mori tracks were not included, and some of the songs that the band did perform from the album, in my opinion, are some of the weaker songs. While I think most of us agree that Ghosts Again is the best song on the album, I think Before We Drown, People Are Good, and Always You are great songs as well. No offense to anyone, but My Cosmos Is Mine, Soul With Me are not great songs in my opinion. I love Soul With Me. I also wasn't thrilled with some of the other tracks, such as Sister of Night, Home, A Pain Than I'm Used To, Waiting for the Night. I'm not saying they're bad songs, but I feel like there are way better songs in the vast DM catalog that fans would have preferred to hear over those, at least for me anyway. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I wish they would have selected some different songs. Nevertheless, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing the other 3 songs. Thanks for your podcast, Jim C. And I think Jim really lays out the subjective nature of just music and art in and of itself, where we all have differences of opinion. Neither of them are right or wrong. Dave Theofolt writes this: I've just got to say how exciting it has been to be a Depeche Mode fan these last few years. A phenomenal album followed by an even better tour, along with DM mentions and movies and DM commentary coming out on the 28th in IMAX. We also get those 4 new songs with the release of the new live album, which I've already purchased on vinyl. Only us DM fans will ever understand the excitement of this and appreciate how relevant this band is after all these years. Thank you much for that, as always, David. I appreciate it. And lastly, friend of the show, Jason, writes this. What an exciting week of news. It must have been the late 80s or 90s, since we've had so much news in such a short period of time. Details of the physical release of Depeche Mode M, the release of In the End, the details of the other 3 songs, and at the time of writing, there's still the cinema screening of M to watch, plus the random songs involving Martin and Dave. So where do I start? My head is spinning. Based on the previous 4-year album cycles, as I was talking about earlier, we are now in the month the band usually gets together to discuss the next album and share 1 or 2 demos, with the recording usually starting the following spring. So the release of those 4 songs are probably closer to the next album than the last one. It was great to hear In the End properly, and what a stunning song. It wasn't until I had it on in the background doing something else that I realized, at least to my ears, it has an essence of Where's the Revolution about it. Try and listen past the vocals, and you might get what I mean. The chugging, stuttery bass line, the shuffling percussion, the arrangement. I actually feel it's exponentially better than Where's the Revolution. I was surprised there was no video. I thought there might have been a video made up of a compilation of footage from M to help promote the film and the forthcoming physical release. One minor criticism about the overall package is, as they obviously filmed all 3 nights, as a bonus feature, they could have included footage when they changed the set list of those additional songs. I will be getting the CD Blu-ray edition, and as is an old tradition for me, have the day of release booked up to pop into my nearby city to pick up a copy from the record store and making a DM day and night of it. Yeah, I wish I could do this. I have just no idea where I would be able to go and do that here in Minnesota. I will obviously play those 4 unreleased tracks several times first. Why So Bloody Long for Dave and Martin, for Martin and Dave. But after that, I do play the live CD or wait until the next day after I've watched the film and concert for first on Friday night and use the rest of Friday's daytime to have myself a DM vinyl day, as I still have several vinyl DM purchases I need to play. Plus, I've just bagged myself the 101 box set for a few quid more than the cost of the actual Blu-ray itself in the UK, so when delivered, I might put it to one side until December 5th and have myself a DM live weekend in the evenings. Better stock up on Guinness for then. Absolutely. And when this goes out to everyone who went, I hope you all enjoyed the movie. Regards, Jason. You know, one thing that, and I mentioned this on a previous episode, I'm also excited for the live release. I have not listened to a lot of the actual audio from the concerts. Usually I go back and listen to 101 or Songs of Faith and Devotion, the live album, when I want to get my live Depeche Mode fix. The other tours just haven't really grabbed me. But the fact that Marta Solongny did the production work for the songs, and as I mentioned on the previous episode, we know that there was some changes made and relating to the 101 shows in terms of what we hear live. There was a lot of just production value that went in to make those sound as good as they did. It wasn't a one-to-one of that night in Pasadena is what I'm trying to say. So Marta Solongny working on the production work for the live album has me really excited for the quality of what that audio is going to sound like from those concerts. And so I'm really excited about that. So I want to hear from you. This being a big week for Depeche Mode fans and going and seeing the movie, drop me an email between now and next week, talkshownerd@gmail.com. You can also do the Jon Justice, Jon, but I always do talkshownerd@gmail.com. Or leave a comment up on YouTube. I really want to get into your listener feedback next week on the show. Until then, I want to remind you that Depeche Mode, the podcast, is brought to you by my science fiction space opera series, EMBARK. After Earth faces its end in 2172, follow pilots Taft, Katha, and their crew on a journey of survival across the galaxy as they fight for humanity's future. Head on over to Amazon.com, ebook, Kindle Unlimited, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook. 7 books in all in the series. I hope if you enjoy reading or listening to science fiction, you'll check out my stories. I really would appreciate it. Until next week, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, Depeche Mode week. And I hope wherever you are enjoying the film, you're happy, you're healthy, you're safe. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
And Depeche Mode, the podcast.